This this is an interesting live stream that I never thought I'd ever do, because initially I was never a really big sports fan. Um, I grew up being that kid that didn't like soccer, that didn't like cricket. I tried to watch them, but every time I did, like, I would fall asleep. I actually grew up watching wrestling. I grew up watching WWE. So, but it's not a real sport. It's basically entertainment. It's like watching a movie. You know, just that the difference is the stuntmen are actually doing it live as opposed to um, being pre-recorded and all these type of things. So it didn't feel like a real sport, and I felt weird not having or not having any sport that I was a big fan of, right? And then because I used to watch WWE, I got introduced to MMA through Ronda Rousey. That was the first time I saw MMA. That's the first time. And Ronda Rousey and Anderson Silva are the first two stars that I knew that introduced me to MMA, right? But I still, because I live in South Africa. We didn't have MMA, and obviously UFC was still growing and it was still developing. So I could only see highlights. I didn't even know that UFC had a page, or rather had a channel on YouTube. So over the years, I kept seeing like a bit of like highlights there and there until the UFC partnered with a local. Yo, I to a lady to death in that park. Why do you guys come on live streams to say this kind of shit, dog? Anyway, let me proceed. So, my network. I hope it's not too terrible, man. Like, why would you say something this horrible in the comment section, dude? Like, who are you? Who are you, man? What do you look for? Oh, dude, this is disturbing. What you just said is really disturbing, man. And for you to actually say something like that is, you don't even know me. You don't even know. You don't. Anyway, um, as I was saying, I started watching MMA in 2019, and last year I decided to start a channel because the MMA is not that big in South Africa. So I decided, you know what, I want to help grow the sport. And ever since, man, has been incredible. I built a community with all of you guys, and I've grown to love all of you. Speaking to you in the comment section has given me so much joy. Um, UFC 300 is probably the best sporting event that I've ever witnessed in my whole entire life. I know we complain a lot about the UFC and a lot of other things like fighter pay and all these type of things that we complain about, and which are valid. But I'm the type of person who also likes to give credit where credit is due, and credit is due um, when it comes to what the UFC is able to do, because UFC 300 was incredible, man. Like I got emotional and I got a little bit teary after watching that, and I felt like I wish I could watch something like this on a weekly basis or on a daily basis. I didn't want UFC 300 to end, man. Like from the beginning, fights have been were incredible. Um, Even those that maybe people feel like are boring, like the fight between Aman Sarukian versus um, what do you call him, Charles Oliveira. That was an insane fight. That was an incredible fight. It was a breathtaking fight. Like I couldn't believe what I was watching. The fight between Jiri Prohaska versus Alexander Rakic. That was an amazing fight. I like Diego Lopez versus Yusuf. Diego Lopez versus what do you call him? Sadiq Yusuf. That fight was, my mind was blown like this weekend. Like I never thought I would be such a massive sports fan. Like I never grew I grew up not loving sport at all, like any type of sport. Like it's not like I transitioned from any other sport and I was like, oh, UFC looks like it's fun. No, I actually hated sports, and it used to make me feel weird because like I would get teased for it, and but I didn't find any sport interesting, until I fell in love with MMA. And yo, this weekend just, I don't know how it's possible for a sport to make, because that's something that happens when you watch like a really touching movie, or a really touch, like something that actually invokes something. I don't get how a sport is able to make someone feel emotional, but UFC 300 did that, and I'm honored to have been a part of that in some way because of my channel. Every my predictions, my analysis, everything that I did for UFC 300 will forever be here, and I'm glad I became an MMA fan before UFC 300, because I was able to build some level of knowledge with regards to every single fighter in the UFC. I was able to build an understanding of the sport in order to be in a position to appreciate the magnitude of what UFC 300 was. Um, it had all this hype, and I was a little bit doubtful about some of the fights that were on the card, especially on the main card. But damn it, they all delivered, man. They all delivered. Irrespective, I heard people booing Aljamain Sterling and all this stuff. I feel like Aljamain Sterling did what he needed to do in order to get the win. Calvin Kattar was the better striker. I can't say there was a boring fight on that card. I think a lot of MMA fans like kickboxing, so they expect kickboxing in MMA, which is not possible. Then it would be called kickboxing, not MMA. When you watch an MMA fight, you should expect grappling, among other various, right? Like for MMA fans, like a lot of UFC fans, it seems like what they want is for it to be mixed martial arts minus wrestling. I think that's what maybe most mixed martial arts, or rather most UFC fans want, which is crazy, because I enjoy every single aspect of MMA. When a fight is boring, I mean it's boring. But when someone is doing what they feel like this is the best possible way for me to actually get this win, um, I can't fault them for that. And he was trying to finish. It's not like he was sitting on top of him. But nonetheless, I'm going to do a separate stream for that particular fight. I just wanted to thank the UFC, man. Irrespective of how we normally feel about them, irrespective of what um, the things that we complain about, it's important to always show appreciation wherever it's due. So shout out to the UFC for giving us such an incredible card. It's crazy. I'm honored to have been a fan of the sport at this time in history. I'm sure UFC 400 and 500 will be incredible because the sport keeps on growing, and hopefully I'll still be there to be able to see that. Um, it sucks that people have to grow old, because I wish I could see the peak of the sport, because this is the peak in our lifetime. It's not necessarily the peak. Obviously, also it depends on who's going to be taking over once Dana White is gone. But I cannot even start to imagine how the UFC will look like, or how UFC 500 will look like, how UFC 1000 will look like, because the stars will be bigger, um, the skill will be better everywhere. Like, can you imagine how UFC 1000 is going to be, man? Like the popularity of the fighters, the skill level of the fighters. Yeah, Trace is just a sick person, man. Like Trace is such a sick person. I don't know why you say. Why are you retracting that message? Like, but Trace is such a sick person. I don't know why anyone would say something like that. I actually should report this guy. Um, Let me see if I can do something. Yeah, I need to report this dude. Um, yeah, harassment. No. Yeah, yeah. I reported that guy. For him to say what he just said about me is sick. It's sick. And I hope he get dealt. I hope he gets dealt with. Anyway, what did you think about the Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje fight? I actually just did a live stream reacting to that fight. I predicted that fight almost exactly how it happened. I did when I was breaking down the fight. I actually said that just Max Holloway would beat Justin Gaethje at a distance, and that would frustrate Justin Gaethje, and he would then be a little bit reckless and move forward. And what would happen in that fight would be the same thing that happened in the Korean Zombie fight. Max Holloway would knock him out. You can go to the live section of my channel to see the predictions, um, the live predictions, because I actually said it exactly like that. And in a way, that's how it happened because Max Holloway beat him up for most of the rounds, and Justin Gaethje felt like he had to stand in the middle and try to um, give himself a chance, and he got knocked out. And that's basically how I actually saw it happening. It was sad because how Gaethje went down face first. That was probably one of the most horrible knockout. It's almost similar to what Josh Emmett did to Bryce Mitchell last year, December. It's almost similar to that. That was sick to watch, man. Like, uh, that's why I'm speechless when like this card just. If UFC 300 was a woman, I would marry her. Like, I'm officially a huge fan of. I've been a fan. Obviously, I have a channel with like over 1 million views. I have a channel with like nearly 7,000 subscribers. Obviously, I'm a fan and I'm in love with the sport. But now, like, it invoked emotions, like emotions that made me feel like crying because it was so good, man. Like, that's how much I love the sport. It was so good, like it made me feel like crying. I've never enjoyed any form of sport in that particular way. When it ended, I wish I could go to Dana White and say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and maybe give him money for what he did. I mean, like, I don't know how to express how I felt about UFC 300, man. It was incredible. It was incredible. I think if you are an MMA fan, it doesn't matter which organization you support or you follow, whether it's PFL, whether it's Bellator, or the both of them now because they are joined, or whether it's one champion. I think if you're an MMA fan, man, like you got your biggest high from UFC 300. Um, there's still so much I want to say, but for now, let me start another stream. I want to actually speak about individual fights that happened at UFC 300. Yeah, sure. For now, I love you guys and deuces. And also, guys, please avoid being negative in the comment section. Some dude just came into my comments. Let me read what he said to me. Aren't you the guy who beat that poor lady to death in that park? Like, what the hell, dog? Especially in today's times, guys. Like, Men are being taken to pray like that, and I'm in the legal field, right? And I read so many cases of people being wrongfully taken to prison. You know, for someone to come into my comment section and say something horrific like that, like small things can get you in trouble. Like it's unfathomable for someone to. That's why I reported him. I wish I could press charges, but I don't know where he's from. I don't know him personally. I wish I could take him to court. I hope reporting him will do something. That's that's that, I don't even know what to say to that. So, guys, if you don't like someone's content, just don't view it, guys. Like, don't come in there and say shit like this. Anyway, I love you guys. I'm going to start a different stream. I appreciate every single support I get from you. Yeah, let's meet on the other stream. I'm going to do almost every fight on UFC 300 individually. Ciao.